Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a quick little tip for you, which is probably going to be a slightly longer tip, but it's basically how to disassemble and maintain a Benchmade 940 without going through all the pain that the process can entail. If you've watched my other Benchmade Axis-lock disassemblies on knives like the Rift, the Valet, who else? The Contego. I've done the full takedown, where you take out all these screws, take out the liners, disassemble the whole package. Look, that works fine, and in fact, it's a way to get things cleaner if you want to get in there, do rust protecting on the back sides of things. But most of the time, you don't need to do that at all. And instead, you can treat the knife like an integral, and so I'm going to show you that method here today, which is much less painful to go through and to deal with here. I do want to thank my buddy Andrew for sending this knife along for review and disassembly and whatnot as a charitable donation. When I'm done with it, I will do a charity sort of thing. So I've unscrewed the pivot screw. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some sort of a tool to pop the pivot out of the other side here. Just make sure it's smaller than the threading, so that way you're not going to hurt the threading terribly. And then you just press. Oh, come on now. There we go. Sometimes it helps to remove pressure from the axis lock. And now the pivot is out of there. Now, pivot is out of there. That means the only thing holding the blade in is this little screwdriver. So when I release it, there goes our blade. And we see that the rest of the knife is still one sort of package. The axis lock still moves. Everything else is still fine in there. So effectively, we've just taken this guy down like we would a full-on integral knife, which is nice. In order to actually do the cleaning, things are slightly more and slightly less complicated. All you need to do is take a little Q-tip, cotton swab, or even a folded paper towel and get in there and just kind of clean out this area in between here. You can see I'm pulling some gunk out of there. Beautiful thing. Then you got to do the usual with the blade and the washers. So you might clean off the washers a little bit. You might polish them if that's your shtick. A little bit of a burr on this washer, is there? Sure feels like it. Huh, weird. Where's mine? Do I not have sandpaper handy? I usually do. All right, whatever. Either way, I can get in there another time, no problem. So there you go. And then on the other side, the other washer, go ahead and do the same thing. That's still a little burry too, but whatever. Now we clean the blade off. And on the blade, just make sure, clean the back here, no problem. And, of course, the pivot. And we're actually pretty much done with the cleaning. This has the disadvantage of you won't be able to get to these skeletonized inner line. Well, I'm sorry, not skeletonized. Kind of. It's a just a partial inner liner there, but you know what? That's okay. Next thing, note that the pivot here is D-shaped. This is important because there is a D shape to the hole as well, and if you try and push the pivot through and you're not in the right position, you're going to have a bad time. But next thing to do is to pop the pivot in slightly. So you can see here there's just a little bit of protrusion from the pivot. And we want that right now because the very next step is to orient the washer and then drop it through there. What I'm actually going to go ahead and do, though, is add a little tiny dot of lubrication. It's a helicopter outside. That's weird. Anyways, add a little drop of lubrication in there. Now I'm going to try and drop. There we go. So what I've done here is I've dropped the very first washer onto the pivot here. You can see it hanging out there. Now I'm going to retract the pivot so it's just barely, or ideally so it is exactly flush with the washer. Next thing, then take this other washer here and I'm going to use a little bit of lubrication. And then I'm going to, come on now. There we go. This lubrication will provide some surface tension that should help to keep this washer in the proper position. So, now what I got to do is just work this blade and its other washer into the gap here. And it's not all that super hard to do. One piece of advice is that you will want to disengage the axis lock. So I'll use my index finger here to disengage the axis lock. Okay, well that didn't go super well, but that's okay. These are the kinds of little things that happen on occasion. What happened there is I just pushed the pivot a little through and then I lost grip on the axis lock and everything went sideways. But you know what? If that's as far sideways as it went, then I'm a happy man. So one more time with feeling. I'm going to go ahead and slide this blade in here. I'm going to pull the axis lock out of the way. There we go. And I'm going to use my middle finger on the other side here to push up on the pivot. And now what we've got actually is that the pivot is through the blade. Next step, you're going to need some sort of a small little tool, like this little guy right here. And I'm just going to see if I can drag the washer into position here. This is a little watch spring bar tool. And so again, I'm going to retract the axis lock and push the pivot the rest of the way through. Now at this point, all you got to do is look and make sure, okay, there's a washer, everything looks roughly centered and everything looks roughly happy. So you can put the knife back together. Beautiful. Use a little bit of Loctite on this guy, because the 940 is, there we go. It's kind of designed that you have to tune the action a little bit there. And I just got to drop this guy back into its little hole here. This is going to be the fastest axis lock reassembly I have ever done, but that's because I cheated by only doing part of it. Alrighty. Oh, there, that's a little too tight. Let's back that off just a smidge. Actually, here, I'll spread things around first. Yeah, alrighty. Back that off more than just a smidge. That's still a little tight. Let's loosen it back up here. This had minimal blade play. There we go. I think I can go maybe a little looser here. Not quite. There's blade play. Well, unfortunately, this being a Benchmade made circa 2017, it's sort of a fact of life. But you know what? Well, okay, that's not true. They're doing a little better sometimes, but still. It may not be the case that I can get a great free drop in action without any blade play. And it's sad. But its existence, I'll try dialing this back just a little bit further here. That's pretty decent. There's very, very, very minor play, almost imperceptible. I think that's the best I'm going to do here, and you know what? That's okay. But anyways, now the knife is back together. It's running in good condition. I've cleaned out all the gunk in there that's, well, problematic. The only other thing I'm going to do is add a little tiny bit of your thicker, this is an 85 weight nano oil. I'd been using the 10 weight in the middle there. That's not a little tiny bit. Holy crap, Nick. With the over lubrication. So I'm going to add a little bit of that lubrication to this area here, and that's so that the axis lock slides all the way up onto there. That's good. And also so it just rolls a little bit more smoothly along the tang of the blade there. And we're in. So, there you go. That's another method of disassembling and maintaining an axis lock knife that sucks a great deal less than every other approach that I've shown off on the channel, even though you end up not cleaning all the interior. So it's not as pleasing to me personally, but it's way easier. So, there you go. Hope this is interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.